01 or 02 and go to the first. Rick, do we have any business items?
We do not, Madam Chair. We can go right into the agenda. And good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. First up, we have a presentation from the leader of our Economic Development Division, Kristen Gorski. We also have Lauren Siegel on as well. I know you've all had a chance to meet, but probably I think this is Lauren's first meeting with the CPED committee. So Kristen has uploaded a report highlighting everything that's happening from an economic development standpoint. And I think, as you can see, there's a significant amount of activity happening townwide, and Kristen will touch on that this morning. So through you, Madam Chair, I will turn things over to Kristen Gorski.
Great. Good morning. Can I share my screen? Give me just 1 second.
Yeah.
Great. And then you could just let me know that you see this.
Yes.
Yep, you're good.
Excellent. Great. Good morning, Kristen Gorski, Economic Development Coordinator. And as Town Manager Ledwith had mentioned, I also am joined this morning by Economic Development Specialist, Lauren Siegel. So wanted to go through this morning because it's been a number of months since you had received a formal Economic Development team presentation. Lauren joined our team back in September and has just been a phenomenal asset to both the town of West Hartford as well as our abilities to support the community. And that's across a lot of different aspects, as you will see in this presentation. So to frame the presentation, this is really the last 2.5 months, let's say, worth of work in terms of the leasing and business activity that I will touch upon right now. That's the last 2 months. So we really started as of January 1st. So I'll run through this, some activity that we see in town, nautical bowls. They are up in Bishop's Corner in the former Eden's Plaza, but in the former Abbey Dabby space. They are open up there, a very new lease that's recently been announced. Also in the same exact building at 344 North Main Street is IVX Health. So they recently, within the last couple of weeks, applied for permits. So working with them in order for them to get approved to move forward. At 312 North Main Street, we have Veterinary Revision. So they are currently working to build out in their space. So that is the building just south of where the Whole Foods Plaza is in Bishop's Corner. They specialize in pet ophthalmology. Couple other highlights, Chip City in Blueback Square, they are getting extremely close to being open. So checking off the last couple items on their checklist. Muse Paint Bar is now open in their newer relocated space. So this was a relocation and expansion for Muse Paint Bar, but we were really happy to see that they were able to move to a much more prominent space on Isham and stay here in town. A couple of additional announcements. So these are also folks that are in Blueback Square that have applied for permits. We're working with them in order to move through and obtain all of their permits, but Beamlight Spa, or excuse me, sauna. So they recently opened one of these over in Evergreen Walk in South Windsor. They will be building out and opening in what used to be a chunk of the former Charming Charlie space on Memorial, and then Locked & Company, which is a financial services and office tenant. They are working to obtain their permits as well. In the former Sweet Frog, excuse me, space on South Main Street, 13 South Main, Cafe Nero. This is really fantastic news. We got a lot of really positive press about this within the last couple of weeks. They are working to obtain the rest of their permits. So this is the second location that Cafe Nero will be opening in Connecticut. But what's cool about it is it's predominantly found in areas within Europe. So they are just more recently starting to expand into the US. They have a couple locations in the Boston area as well, but excited to welcome a second location in Connecticut here in West Hartford. Weehaw Candle Company, they recently announced that they will be relocating. So they are currently at 635 New Park. So they both have candles that they make in-house and they sell within that location, as well as they have candle making. So really a cool experience where you can go in with friends, family, different types of parties, and you can make candles. But then they also sell, in addition to their product, a lot of locally sourced products. So really excited to have them move into a bigger location. So this will be in the former Pokemoto space on Farmington Avenue. They just announced it within the last week or so. So working with them to obtain permits. Both BU MedSpa and Norcom Mortgage. Those are two new businesses at 1000 Farmington Avenue. So the property that is at the corner of Farmington and Dale Street. So BU MedSpa is a brand new med spa. This is the first business for the entrepreneur, and then Norcom Mortgage was a relocation. We've been working with Norcom off and on for about a year and a half. They were referred to us by the Chamber of Commerce, and we're just really excited to finally find them a space here in town. Several of us were at NBT Bank and their ribbon cutting for their new location at 68 South Main Street last week. So they now have 2 bank branches as well as their Connecticut headquarters here in West Hartford. So they have their first bank branch that is in Corporate Center West, which is the same as their Connecticut corporate headquarters. So they were excited to be able to find this location here in West Hartford Center. It was one of the biggest ribbon cuttings I think that we have seen in a long time, just because as soon as they announced that they were coming to West Hartford in the last couple of years, they've really tried very hard to integrate themselves into the community. So there's a lot of people there in support. Quick Bites, they opened on Park Road. This is Jamaican cuisine. The owner started out with a food truck, so expanded into her first brick and mortar. Salt and Lime was recently announced. This is a renovated concept for Americana. So Americana was a very new and different concept for the restaurateurs that own it. It was not necessarily in their wheelhouse. They really specialize more in Mexican cuisine. So that's what they will be renovating towards. Lauren and I had met with them a couple of weeks back. So we are helping them to move forward with the minor renovations and obtaining all the permits that they will need in order to reopen. But there really should not be too much downtime between them closing for minor renovations and then reopening as Salt and Lime. Iron Horse Pub, they are working to build out. So this is at 14 Oakwood, just around the corner from Park Road. We're excited. This is a third location for these restaurant tours. They have locations in Canton and Simsbury. Sweet Spot, they opened last Saturday officially. So this is at 2 Park Road. This is our second adult use cannabis, recreational cannabis facility. They welcomed a couple of people, but excited to have them open in that space. Wabi Sabi, they are getting close to being done with their build out. So that's at 139 South Main Street. And that's the former 135 South Main Street. That's the former 135. And then CT Head Spa, as well as Junk Pottery Studio. Those are new leases at 602, 604 New Park Avenue. So CT Head Spa, that is a second location for them. They're currently in, their first location is in Berlin. And then Junk Pottery Studio, which many people really, really love. It's a cool, unique use for us here in town. They're currently at 635 New Park. So they are moving and relocating to a more prominent space up on New Park Avenue. And this is also a larger space for them. So what's really great is we've gotten a lot of questions about these properties on New Park Avenue. They're the couple of properties on the same parcel that are to the north of 616 New Park. So that was sold probably about a year ago, and they have really tried to work to find the right tenants for them. So there has been a lot of interest, but they have sat vacant for quite some time. So excited to be able to see them being fully tenanted once we move through the permitting process and can get both of these businesses open. Szechuan Alley, this is going into the former G-Monkey space at 625 New Park. I know that Lauren has been doing a lot of work with them to be able to navigate the permitting process to get them up and running. O'Reilly's Auto Parts. So this is going into 983 New Britain Avenue. A lot of construction there on the site. So it really is an out parcel on that property where Price Chopper is. This is really interesting. So they started to do the work and you know, drive the footings for the new building. It's about a 7,000 square foot new build. A lot of folks had questions because they don't recall or had not recalled seeing any announcements about this. But if anybody recalls, this was an older approval. So we actually issued land use approvals to O'Reilly Auto Parts about 5.5 years ago. Then they came in for an amendment about a year later. And this is a particular property that just kind of stalled, the project stalled a little bit, but given how well we have been doing in terms of this market for that type of retailer, they decided to move forward with this project. So we're excited to be able to see the progress of that brand new build on that site. Soul Bowls, they recently opened within the last week at the Epstein Plaza in Elmwood. This is a second location for them. Very excited. These are folks that are from West Hartford. They went through the West Hartford school system. They opened their first location in Hartford, and the restaurateurs are just really excited to bring their culture and their cuisine to their hometown. So they are now open. So please go visit them. And then lastly, the Starbucks at Corporate Center West continues to move along. And then we have the Trader Joe's expansion. So it's the rear expansion. You won't really see anything from the front. This has been ongoing for a couple of months, but this is the expansion of their storage and refrigeration in the back of the building to be able to continue to support the retail space. And then the last one, JD Sports. This is a retailer, very small portion of it is located in West Hartford, the remainder in Farmington. It's one of those retail spaces in the West Farms Mall that split between the two. Let me move into a couple of other things, and then I will pause just to take a couple of questions, if that's okay. Real quick, I'll breeze through this. This is West Hartford submarket statistics. So these are our vacancy rates. So continue to do really well. What I did here was so that folks could kind of see where we're trending, which with each of these primary industries, we go, you know, it ebbs and flows, we go up and down with them, but continue to be very strong. So industrial is currently, and I pulled these where you see the current all the way over to the right side. I pulled these last Friday morning. So they're very current. So industrial 1.3%. We've been somewhere between 1 and 1.5% the last 2 months, I would say. Currently at 1.3. This is the lowest that we have been in well over a decade when you look back and look at the metrics. So industrial space is really hard to come by at this point in time in West Hartford, which is a good problem for us to have, that we have a lot of great tenants in the industrial area. Also, I think with the new TOD ordinance that we passed now 2 years ago, year and a half ago, we are starting to see a couple of the more formally, let's say, industrial buildings. They're starting to get chipped away if there is any vacancy for retail type uses. So I think that's where we see a much lower percentage than we have had, but manufacturing is alive and well, and we have a lot of really great industrial users consistently. Multifamily is at 8.1%. You really see this big jump where we were rolling somewhere between, let's say, 2.8 and 3.2% for the majority of the last couple of years. You're seeing these significant spikes because we're seeing a lot of new units that are coming online, particularly the large amount of units at One Park. So that was, when that hit the market, in total, it's 295 units. A couple of those units are still working to get their final TCOs to be able to open, but they're doing very, very well with leasing. I contacted Chris Riley last week, and he said out of their 295 units, they have 62% of those that are currently leased with folks in those units, but they are still trying to finish a couple of units to have those come online. So that's really where we see this significant spike. We will have, I think, some of these increased vacancy rates with multifamily over the course of the next couple of years, as we see a lot of these larger development projects be in the same exact spot where they're building out, they're starting to, turn over units to the market, and they're working to lease those through. And then office, we continue to do extremely well, 5.3%. That is really well, both compared to the region as well as nationwide. A large majority of our office is in West Hartford Center, Blueback Square, and then we have some office over in Elmwood, think Corporate Center West. So I think why we do so well, what we're continuing to hear is, with the largest majority of office space being in the center and Blueback, it's the amenity package that we're able to sell to folks. So where it's been challenging in other areas to keep office tenants, particularly due to the switch to remote working, we've done extremely well because for hybrid offices, and even with folks that are remote working, they have a number of employees that are in the office, and those employees that are in the office, they want an amenity package, and that's what we have here. So I think we'll continue to trend in that direction, and then the 8% for retail is pretty stable for us. Couple of property sales, 67 Prospect Avenue. This is a $1.49 million sale. So this is right kind of over on the corner of, or border, excuse me, of Hartford. So IT Direct is located over there. They had owned the property. They recently sold. So it says WH Prospect LLC, but this is actually the owners of Anthony's Ocean View down on the shoreline. They are really just a investor of the property, to my understanding, and IT Direct, as well as a couple of the smaller tenants, will remain in that building. And then 805 Farmington, it's a smaller multi-tenant office building. This sold. That's a pretty high $176 per square foot. That's a pretty high per square foot sale, which is great for us. And then let me talk about existing development activity. So a lot of these folks are very familiar with, but I will touch upon the Camelot, 900 Farmington Avenue. So this is the former West Hartford Inn. They recently, at the beginning of the year, they started remediation on that property when they broke ground. So they are working currently to finish that remediation in terms of the abatement and cleaning out the contaminated building materials, removing those offsite, as well as they did the demolition of the former restaurant space, but are still continuing to take those materials off-site. That's expected to continue for the next couple of months. And you will also continue to see them. They're working to demo the former in building itself. So they're working to do that in tandem. We expect that, again, all of that will be complete maybe within the next 2 to 3 months. And then you'll start to see the build out of the actual project, which is 44 units. 100% of those will be affordable housing. And then the byline, they recently put a note out there that said that they are going to start to pre-lease come the month of April. So that project is moving along very quickly. So we hope that that will be complete by end of spring, early summer. And then obviously I touched on One Park continuing to move along. The one thing I wanted to note about One Park beyond the 62% occupancy for them is it's been phenomenal to hear from the businesses that are located on Park Road, the impact that that development has already had. So they have, again, a lot that they still need to open and a number of units that they will lease, but just that 62% and seeing a couple hundred new faces that are within walking distance, businesses can really feel that in a very positive way, which is exactly what everybody contemplated when approving and supporting that development. So just wanted to share that really great news. And then a couple of new developments. You are all familiar with these two at 1700 Asylum and 509 New Park Avenue. 579 New Park Avenue, this is a TOD that a lot of folks have seen. So what they're looking to do is demolish the existing building at 579 New Park, and they will build a new 5-story mixed-use building. The ground floor retail space, they're expecting to be approximately 2,700 square feet, and then approximately 70 units there. They currently have a site plan application into the town planner. They applied for that site plan back on December 1st. You are allowed through that administrative process to request a 65-day extension. This is if there are any outstanding questions or comments that need to be addressed on the town staff side, as well as working with the development team to be able to address all of those. So while this is getting very close, there were still a number of items that needed to be finalized and ironed out in order to issue an approval on that particular application. So they requested a 65-day extension on February 9th. And then the Puritan property, 1051, 1061 New Britain Avenue. Town staff through the town planner. This is another TOD administrative review and site plan application process. The town planner had issued a approval back on October 23rd of last year, 2023. We have been working hand in hand with that developer, and what ended up happening around the time that they were receiving the approvals is they were starting to get some construction costs, and they did some additional, testing in order to pave the groundwork to move into a demo and get the rest of their quotes, so on and so forth. So it was determined that there were some site issues there on that site, particularly with a high water table. So we worked with this developer to retool their plan a little bit. What they had been approved for, 5-story mixed use building, 23,000 square feet of ground floor commercial space, 150 units. You will still see the same exact view from the front. If you're on New Britain Avenue, 5-story, same amount of ground floor commercial space. They just needed to tick back the number of units because they're removing the underground parking that they had originally been approved to build on that site under the first site plan approval. So they currently have a amendment to the site plan into the town planner for review. So again, that's going to eliminate the underground parking. It's going to create only surface parking. We're not going to lose that many units. It's going to drop back from 150 to 117. And quite honestly, when we were reviewing this prior to the site plan application or the amendment application, I think that it was really well received at a staff level because this is actually a much more constructible building. So in order to get the 150 units plus the underground parking, while great, there were some challenges. And so by eliminating the underground parking and reducing the number of units, again, while you won't see any changes from the front, when you look at the back portion of the property and the configuration of the building, it's much more constructible. So we're happy about that. So look for a amendment, hopefully an approval, I would say within the next 30 to 40 days. And then lastly, everyone is aware of the Wendy's application that is coming up. So I just want to take a quick pause and see if there's any questions on leasing and development activity. And then I will quickly run through the rest of the activity that the economic development staff has been working on. Anything? No?
Oh, Chairwoman, I got a quick question if your committee members don't have a question.
Sure.
Thank you, Christian, for that report. Incredible. As I was looking through it last night, I was really excited to see the number of new businesses coming into town, especially Soul Bowl, Yahoo, and the other restaurant on Park Road. But I do have a quick question for you on one park. So you mentioned that about 62% are leased, and there's a few more that are coming online. The ones that are remaining, can you tell me, are those the larger units? Are those the 2 and 3 bedrooms? And do you even know? I'm just assuming.
Yes, great question. So Councilor Blanks, my understanding from ongoing conversations with the development team is some of the larger units are the remaining units. So I forget off the top of my head, but they only had a very small number of those larger configurations, 3 bedrooms, 3 with a den, to fill out some of the remaining space as they were working to plan the development itself. So I believe that 1, if not 2 of those have been leased, and those remain open, those larger number of units. Primarily what they've been really great or had a lot of interest rather in terms of leasing is their 1 and 2 bedrooms. So that has been the most popular so far in terms of the that 62% that has been leased.
Okay, thank you. And another question through you, Madam Chair, on the New Britain Avenue one with the underground parking. Do you know what those challenges were that allowed them to amend the application and basically eliminate the underground parking to surface parking?
Yes, thank you for the question. So there is a high water table over there. So it really, it exponentially increased the cost of construction as well as maintenance of the underground parking over time, so much so that that was found to not be feasible. So by removing that underground parking and converting to surface parking only, that's where it's going to be a much easier project to be able to fund and finance as well as to maintain over time.
Okay, thank you. I'm all set, Madam Chair.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I don't see any more questions. So if you want to go ahead, that's fine.
Great, and I will quickly go through the last couple of slides. So marketing and communications, when Lauren came on board in September, we ended up transitioning all of the communications over to Lauren. So hopefully everybody on here and on council is receiving our monthly newsletters, as well as some of the additional communications that we send out. I wanted to put this in here. So while this presentation mostly is from the last two and a half months, I wanted to put all of the constant contacts that Lauren has sent out in her time here, just to see, so that you all could see the open rates and the activity that we see. So all of these newsletters have been extremely well received. Our open rates are very high. So we're high 40s, low 50s% in terms of open rate. So that's people who are on that 3,600 person listserv that we have of business owners, business managers, property owners, property managers, so on and so forth. We're getting close to 50% of the people that are on our listserv who are opening our newsletter and reading our newsletter. So this is in comparison to an industry standard of 23%. So extremely high open rates, which continues to tell us that it's a really valuable resource to our business community. And then this is just our social media. Everybody should follow us if you're not, please. But we continue to work to market our businesses and the stuff going on in our community. As we move into some more robust business retention and expansion efforts with Lauren on board, we think that this will only start to increase. So really high engagement on our Instagram. And then these are also a couple of one-pagers that Lauren had put together. So as we fit into the permitting pipeline and we serve, a very unique role here for the town, we wanted to make sure that folks that were coming to any of the permitting counters physically in person understood that we were available beyond our colleagues who might bring us into some conversations or pass out our cards and refer us. This is a ability for folks to understand who we are. So we put together a one-pager in terms of who's economic development. These currently sit, and you can take them, they currently sit on the planning and zoning counter as well as building. And then we did two separate handouts, one on workforce development resources, and then the other, which is on financing. So these can be handed out on our business visits, as well as we attach this in a lot of emails that we send when folks are looking for support in either of these realms. And then I will also move through this quickly. So we, in total, between Lauren and myself in the last 2 months, we have had touch points with 60 business owners. So this is a variety of different things, but typically the process that we have implemented is for any business that contacts us, if somebody introduces them to us, if they have applied for permits, we make sure that we understand what they need, and we continue to work with them until those questions, comments, concerns, issues are resolved. So every single business that has applied for a permit through the building division or the planning and zoning office, Lauren reaches out to, and then we work to help them navigate all of the approval processes. And we've done a lot of financial referrals to the Connecticut Small Business Development Center and such. Lauren also has put together a robust business retention expansion BRE survey that we will be using on our visits. So this is something that we used to do. We do every now and then, but not quite as formally, just due to bandwidth with staff. But with her on board, we will be starting, we started this month, and we'll really be moving heavy into this next month, but meeting with 25 businesses per month. And again, this is to track what's going on, what are their successes, what are their challenges, what can we help them with the sole purpose of making sure that they're happy, healthy, they stay here in business in West Hartford. And then last February, we sent out a business climate survey to the business community. We had a couple hundred responses. We have retooled that, and that will go back out to the business community in next month's newsletter. And then workforce development, we're working with the West Hartford Public Schools with several of their staff to be able to work on making sure that both the school system is providing curriculum for their students that is in manufacturing and the trades, so alternative career paths, as well as making sure that our business community is supported. So we have done a manufacturing needs assessment to all of our manufacturers. We're still getting those to come in, but we're working with the public schools to put on a career fair that will occur in the month of April. We expect that students from both Hall and Conard will come through and meet with our manufacturers in hopes that they can, have conversations with the businesses and that they will continue to choose manufacturing and the trades as a career path. And students will have better opportunities in a pipeline of a career here in our community. And then you can see the 3 events that we have supported, are supporting. Thank you so much to everybody that made time to go to the Black Business Expo last weekend. It was fantastic. And then working with the Office of Equity Advancement, we're doing a women's empowering panel next month. And this is in celebration of Women's History Month, bringing women in and women-owned businesses in to discuss kind of their path within their career. And then you can see just the last couple of nuts and bolts of things that we're working on, continuing to support ARPA projects. And then we have 3 municipal brownfield grants that we were awarded or have been told that we will receive, and are just working to iron out the contract process. So that is a lot to throw at you. I'm so sorry for taking so much time, but happy to take any additional questions that are out there.
Are there any additional questions? I can't really see everybody, so. Mayor Cantor?
Thank you. I just wanted to thank Kristen and Lauren for their incredible work. The outreach and the, I think that the regular touching of businesses and the scheduled check-ins is so important. And I'm just so grateful for that. So we are aware of a problem before there's a problem, or if there's general concerns of a business, we understand and can meet those needs. So thank you so much for that. Great work. And it's really wonderful to hear the update. Thank you. And Lauren, welcome and thank you.
Thank you.
I don't see any additional questions, but thank you so much for your presentation. It was very informative and gave me a lot of information that I had been wondering about some of the things going on in town. So thank you. And it was nice to meet you, Lauren, at the expo, I guess 2 Saturdays ago, or yeah.
Thank you.
So we want to move on to the Vision Zero action plan.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. As we all know, we are at a pretty significant milestone in our Vision Zero process, which began a year ago when our mayor and town council passed a resolution establishing a task force to help us with Vision Zero here in town. So over the last year, our task force, together with our consultants, have been working together to create an action plan that will eliminate all deaths and serious injuries as a result of traffic crashes within 10 years. Last month, we presented the final draft to CPED, and tomorrow night, we will have a resolution on the council agenda where our council will vote to authorize us to adopt West Hartford Vision Zero Plan 2024. As we discussed last month, we have identified a large number of projects to complete within the first year of Vision Zero. and we are prepared to move forward with these plans upon the council's direction tomorrow night. This morning, we have our Director of Community Development, Dwayne Martins here. We have our Town Engineer, Greg Summer, our Assistant Town Engineer, Jim Brennan. We also have our consultants from FHI, Adam Tessa and Parker Sorensen with us this morning as well. You'll remember both of them from last month's presentation, as well as from our public meetings along the way as well. So what we would do, and following the presentation of last month's action plan to CPED, we were very encouraged by the feedback that we have received from our community. And there are no real changes to the action plan as it was presented last month. As we have discussed, as the council is well aware, this is a living and breathing document. So this is something that is going to change as we move through the Vision Zero process. Essentially, you'll see changes within this plan every year as we move through the next decade or so. So I'll pause there and through you, Madam Chair, turn it back to you and the Town Council, and are prepared to answer any questions that you may have in preparation for tomorrow's vote. Thank you.
Okay, so start out, do any committee members have questions on the Vision Zero? Deputy Mayor Winograd?
Thank you. No questions. I just want to thank everybody for all their work. And this is a 135-page document so that we've all been over a lot. So no questions today, but all the questions have been answered sort of throughout the process. And I wanted to thank all the members, and it's been a lot of work bringing this to us. And I just want to say, the lack of questions doesn't indicate lack of interest. This has been an incredible endeavor, and I just can't wait to see projects hitting the ground. We need it, and it's going to be just wonderful to see. So thank you all.
Councilman Cortez, did you have a question? No? Okay. Okay. So I have a few, but I'll go on and let any other council members who have questions. Does anyone else? Mayor Cantor.
Thank you. I want to make a couple of comments. One is that Adam and Parker, thank you for your guidance and for your incredible input. And what's so important about this document, and I think what has been frustrating, we talked about this to the community, is we want things to happen right now, because it is when we see somebody driving recklessly, going too fast, or a crosswalk that we know is difficult for a pedestrian or a cyclist, it's it's really concerning. And everybody drives too fast. It's just one of those things. Everybody drives too fast. And our cars are built so we don't feel it, and all of those things. So there is such an urgency. But we have to be scientific, and we have to use our resources, whether it be state or local resources, in a very a way we can identify, a data-driven way that has all the information behind it, and there's an understanding of priorities. Because if you ask anybody on their street, again, people drive too fast everywhere, and every street has some danger on the roads, no question. And so it's prioritizing those dangers and those, and having that be the criteria, the top criteria. I also want to say that the town manager actually has responsibility for this report, this action plan, and that will change. We're getting an initial report that is a living and breathing document that will change with time as things happen, and things are going to happen that might take us in a little different direction and present a different priority. But we want as a council to be able to weigh in and make sure that the community knows how important it is to us. Obviously, there's going to be appropriations that follow this commitment, and we're going to need to make those appropriations as a result of our budgets. So that's why this is going to be on our agenda tomorrow. I also wanted to talk about, and maybe the town manager can talk about this a little bit, the interaction with the state. A lot of our roads are state roads, and many of the problems, our concerns are on our state roads. So, and I-84 is out of the, is out of this study, but it's an issue for, and we see it, and I think it was in yesterday's Current, talked about the reckless driving and the, and the high speeds and the dangerous driving that is happening throughout our state, and especially on our highways. So, but we have speed limits that we don't have control over that are part of the state, and I know the state is going to be looking at those speed limits and potentially and hopefully lowering those speed limits. And we had received a request on Simsbury Road that has a higher speed limit than some other state arterial roads. And we want to make sure that we have that process and engage the state. So Rick, do you want to just talk about that for a minute?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, through you, Madam Chair. So we, as we also know, I failed to mention this in my opening remarks, but I know we talked about it last month. We will be the first community in the state to adopt Vision Zero. City of Stamford is working on theirs, and we're hopeful that we're going to see a number of communities, especially around in Hartford County, following this what we feel is a very progressive lead and addressing safety on our roads as we move forward. So we've been in touch with our delegation, local state delegation, and they've been very supportive of our efforts as well. They were helpful in us working on and receiving the Safe Streets for All grant, where we will be implementing a speed enforcement camera program. But we will also be setting up a meeting with the DOT within the next week or two to present our plan to the DOT. And as the mayor mentioned, we have a number of state roads, some of which are on our high injury network, that are critical to the safety of our town. So we will be working very closely with the Department of Transportation in our plan and addressing these safety issues. As the mayor mentioned, we have Simsbury Road, we have Albany Avenue, and we're all aware of what happened in the early part of January when we had another unfortunate fatal crash. And then as you go south through town, we have a number of state roads that we will need support and help from the state in helping us to identify engineering and safety initiatives for each of those locations. Thank you.
Mayor Cantor?
Thank you, Rick. And I have one more comment. And, as Deputy Mayor said, we're so anxious to see all of these projects and the fact that they're going to be clustered together a little bit. I know it puts a lot of pressure on our engineering department and on Dwayne and, and everything and I appreciate that very much. But we also are going to be rolling out, and I think it's so important, is that public, the public campaign, right? The PSAs and we had talked about, and I know Councillor Blanks had talked about this in detail at a previous meeting. We need to educate and remind people constantly how important safety to everyone in our community, all road users, are at all times. And so it's communication and education through our schools, which will help to remind parents, but then it's the bling and whether it's neon bands and patches and things that say this is a Vision Zero or Drive Slowly, all of those awareness campaigns, and then the pledges from residents. Look, we have a lot of people that drive through our town that are not residents that might bring some, whether they're a pedestrian and and a driver could bring risk, or they're driving through our town maybe in a way that, we don't think is it is proven to not be a safe way. We need to make those people aware, right? And so that's going to be rolling out, and I think we should be really proud of that, and we're working on that now. And I don't know if Rick, you want to expand on that at all.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, through you, Madam Chair. So as part of our process, it will involve a tremendous amount of education. There's really the engineering piece of it, which we're hitting the ground running with, but a very important part of that process, Vision Zero process, is education as well. And our public relations specialist was part of our task force, and we've identified a number of initiatives that we will be rolling out as we adopt the plan tomorrow night. And we will also be forming a Vision Zero advisory committee as well. And that committee will be comprised of residents and staff members who will work together to ensure that all of our goals that we've set through this process are met. And part of that will be the education process, which Renee McHugh, everyone knows Renee very well, will be very instrumental in helping us move that initiative forward from an education standpoint. And Renee's already come to us with a number of ideas that we will be working on in the coming weeks to get our message out. So we look forward to hearing more about that and presenting that to the council as well as our community at large. Thank you.
I think Councillor Blanks has a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to the town staff and consultants and our volunteers for bringing all of their skills, expertise, and especially their time and devotion to this project. I'm happy to see that we're at the point now where we're bringing it to the council for adoption. I, like many of you, have received many questions and concerns from residents, especially here in my community of town. And so my question, Rick, perhaps to you, to some of the other team members, in terms of a timeline, and I know we're working on this, but just for either our listening audience, for those areas that are in our community where people usually walk and the lighting isn't great and there isn't any signage for cars to stop and allow pedestrians to walk as they're walking, can you give us any idea, or especially for the general public, in terms of a timeline? I know you may not be able to be specific, but just in terms of a rollout, so that people just can have an idea of how soon things are coming, because I know we have a lot of things that we're addressing, especially those high priority areas. As you mentioned, our roads that are connected with the state, and we have to work with them. But is there a way that you can address some of the immediate concerns of our pedestrians who walk in those intersection areas that we don't have signage up yet? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Blanks, through you, Madam Chair. So a number of things will be happening in terms of our timeline and communicating that to the community at large. So there has been, as we all know, through this process, there's been a number of touch points with our community, surveys that the community has taken part in. We've had a couple of public meetings now where the community came out and we were presenting information to them, and then we're set up around the room and receiving feedback from our community and helping us to identify a number of those areas that Councilor Blanks mentions. And we built that into some of those suggestions, a lot of them, I should say, into our first year project list, which we've all had a chance to see. So we have identified 72, 73 projects that we are committed to completing in the first year. But that's not all of the projects that we will see happen over the course of the next 10 years. So certainly as things come up, we will be hearing from our community, as we always do. We've heard from a number of neighborhoods just even late in this process and rolling out the Vision Zero plan, where Neighbors have come out and identified other parts of town that we have already begun addressing from a studying standpoint through our engineering department. So that will continue. We'll have an email box set up similar to what we have right now, where folks can email in ideas and suggestions, and it will be brought to our advisory committee. And our advisory committee will be working throughout the year and every year to ensure that we can continue to meet our goal of Vision Zero. And that will involve the number of projects, parts of town, neighborhoods, lighting, signage, things that we need to improve town-wide. I think, you know, in this first year, our community will see a tremendous amount of change. But it's something that we will be building on year after year as well. So it won't be coming out of the gate hot with these 74 projects and then resting on our laurels. It'll be things that we will continue to build on. And as our plan, which the mayor mentioned and I mentioned earlier as well, is a living, breathing document that will change and we'll continue to address these townwide issues as they come up. I hope that answers your question, Councilor Blanks.
Yes, thank you. And I'm all set, Madam Chair.
Are there any other questions from council members? Okay, seeing none, I will ask my questions. But before that, I just wanted to thank the Vision Zero Task Force. It's a long list. I'm not going to read everyone's name. It's on the first page of the plan, but it's made up of staff members and residents of West Hartford who, you know, took a lot of time away from their life to help put this plan together. I'd like to thank Adam and Parker for what they've done to develop this plan and for their presentation at last month's meeting. And just say, you know, this plan is a significant investment of time and town resources, and it's all to make our town safer for everyone, whether you're walking, biking, or riding in a car. And I think we should be proud of, you know, getting out in front of this and taking this on so quickly and getting all of these things done. My first question is on the list of projects, and it's item 51. It's a raised crosswalk on Fern Street. I was just wanted to ask if that was near Morley. Or if
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you, I will turn it over to Dwayne Martin, our Director of Community Development, and this is something that we will continue to study over the coming weeks to identify the exact location. It may be the kind of thing where we may need 2 raised crosswalks on Fern, and that's to be determined, but through you, I will turn over to Dwayne to answer that more specifically. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Dwayne Martin, Director of Community Development. We're not sure yet is the short answer to the question. Obviously, we are interested in slowing down traffic and improving safety near our schools, so it could be a very good candidate. We have done some work near the Morley School through the years, but we want to take a little bit more time to evaluate and find the best locations possible. But we have heard comments regarding our schools, so that is a potential location on Fern Street. Thank you.
Thank you. How often will the crash dashboard that's mentioned in the plan, how often will that get updated?
Through you, Madam Chair, I will turn that over to Dwayne as well. So if folks have not had a chance yet, you can go on to our Vision Zero website and you can actually click on the crash dashboard, or thanks to our team internally here and our information technology department, we have a great crash dashboard that's ready to be viewed. We are awaiting, it will require some information that we receive from the Yukon crash repository. So we're still awaiting some 2023 data that will be uploaded as we move into 24. But Dwayne, if you want to follow up on that question, thank you.
Thank you, Manager Ledwith. The answer to the question is we'll update the crash dashboard as frequently as we can, but I believe the data gets released in one batch annually, and I believe that's in the summertime. So yeah, there'll be a little bit of a lag in what people are able to see, and they may be wondering why. Perhaps we'll put that information on the webpage to explain that. I forget the month, but I want to say it's the summertime. We'll get another batch of data and we'll be able to update the crash dashboard at that time.
Okay, thank you. Also, what are the factors that decide when a road safety audit needs to be performed?
Very, Madam Chair, Mr. Martin.
Thank you. These are great questions. Well, it's usually in an area that has a lot of complexity. So we're looking at sections of roads or entire corridors where we have a lot of different characteristics that create challenges, whether it's a lot of pedestrian activity or bicycling, issues with our crashes, some of the things that may be a little bit more difficult to understand and need a deeper dive into the data to understand what exactly is going on. You'll see them more so in our commercial areas, and we also like to use the road safety audits as a tool to assist with either improving our design if we have an upcoming road reconstruction or intersection project, or if we are having difficulty getting funding. We can also use the road safety audits as an assisting tool with our DOT. Oftentimes we struggle with getting improvements on our state highways, again, because of the complexities. Doing a road safety audit is a nice way of concisely explaining what the problems and challenges are and what some potential recommended solutions could be. Thank you.
Thank you. We've heard some things about speed enforcement cameras. Are those going to be part of the Vision Zero plan? And if so, is there an update on where that stands as far as moving forward on that?
Sure, through you, Madam Chair. Mr. Martin's been leading this speed enforcement program grant process that we're very fortunate to have received that $800,000 grant, federal grant back in November. And there have been a number of meetings that we've had with the federal delegation. And through you, Madam Chair, I'll throw it over to Mr. Martin.
Good question again. I don't have an exact date. We've had a kickoff meeting with Federal Highways, who is our grant administrator, to figure out the process, better understand what steps we need to accomplish before we can get to the point where we're actually launching this program. So we are in the pre-agreement status with Federal Highways, and we have to put together a lot of information to get the agreement to the point where they would accept it. And once that's done, then the project will kick off officially. Beyond that, we need to collect a lot of data, perform some analysis, and put together information to the State Department of Transportation for our plan to get it reviewed and approved by them before we can go forward. So we're working on these in concert. At some point, when we get further along in the process, we'll work with our procurement office to get a vendor on board as far as the deployment of the cameras and selecting a vendor to do so. So there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of items that need to get pinned down before we get to that point. I'm estimating, still being maybe overly optimistic, that it'll occur in 2024. But if it does, it'll more than likely be summer, fall would be an optimistic estimate.
Okay, thank you. And then my final question. So I know today on the agenda, we have the complete streets update. Will we be kept apprised of the yearly data on Vision Zero in the same manner?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Absolutely. So through this process, the Vision Zero process, we will be completing an annual Vision Zero report. However, in addition to that, we don't want to wait for once a year to present what we've accomplished over the course of the year and setting goals for the following year. We'll keep the Community Planning and Economic Development Committee apprised of our progress toward our goals quarterly. I had mentioned before the advisory committee that we are forming. So That will be a group of 5 residents and, you know, probably like 8 or 9 or 10 staff members who will be meeting at least quarterly as well, to ensure that we are on target with meeting our annual goals. This council, our town council, has already committed significant financial resources to addressing townwide safety, and part of that commitment, in addition to capital improvement plan funds to fund any changes in street design, we've also had the opportunity to hire an engineer who will specifically work on all of our Vision Zero projects and other things as they come up as well. So we hit the ground running as soon as you gave us that appropriation, and we have made an offer, and this person has accepted the position. They will start on March 18th, and we will hold our first advisory committee later that week to give this person a couple of days to get acclimated to West Hartford. But we will be working fast and furiously to accomplish everything that we've set out to accomplish, not just this year, but every year moving forward. So very deep appreciation to the town council for your absolute commitment to what we need to do from a Vision Zero standpoint. So again, it'll be quarterly updates to CPED, and then through Renee's office, through public relations, keeping our community equally as engaged and up to date as we move through this process as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And before we move on to the next item, which is the Complete Streets Annual Report, I just wanted to take a second to, give a shout out to our town manager, Mr. Ledwith. He's been very passionate about this and worked very hard. I know he spent way too much time going to accidents that no one wants to go to. And I know he's worked very hard to try to get this done as quickly as possible. So I just want to give him a thanks and a shout out.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I extend that through to our team as well. I've worked with an incredibly dedicated and committed team of professionals, and can't do it alone. We do it together, and we're proud of where we've come over the last year, and look forward to bringing this forward to the community each and every year for the next 10 years plus. So, and again, a big thank you to Adam and Parker for all of your assistance and help over the course of the last year, and we will keep you up to date on our progress as we move forward, and I know you're very interested in that as well. So thank you.
Okay, we can move on to the Complete Streets Annual Report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And we have as we know, we have our director, Dwayne Martin here. We have our town engineer, Greg Summer, and we have our assistant town engineer, Jim Brennan, joining us as well. So, and they will provide a summary of our annual Complete Street Report. And the goal of our Complete Streets policy is to ensure that our roads complement and enhance the surrounding land use and accommodate all users, pedestrians, bikers, drivers certainly, and any folks accessing our multiple transit options in town as well. And this report tracks our progress towards that goal. So through you, Madam Chair, I will turn it over to Dwayne, I believe, and I think he'll turn it over to Greg and Jim.
Thank you, everyone. I'm actually going to hand this directly off to our assistant town engineer, Jim Brennan. I believe that's what we decided to do, and he'll run through the Complete Streets Annual Report in as much detail as needed. Thank you. Jim?
All right. Thank you. Good morning. Again, Jim Brennan, assistant town engineer. Let me shift screen here. So I'll touch on the highlights of the report, and then certainly answer any questions that the committee may have. So jumping right in, 2023 was a record year in terms of spending. We spent almost $2.3 million on Complete Streets improvements. About half of that was Troutbrook Trail, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a minute. Looking at our annual totals for routes, it was not our biggest year in terms of bicycle facilities. We did convert some existing shared facilities into bike lanes. Of course, we added about 2/3 of a mile to Tropic Trail. And then we have a new category this year, which is maintenance. These are roads where we are either reconstructed or resurfaced, and we already had existing facilities. So we're going to see a lot more of that category as we move forward and continue to grow our bike network. Looking at the bike facilities, we had Quaker Lane South, where we converted an existing shared facility into bike lanes. That was in both directions. We also had Boulevard, which as we know is on pause, on hold right now. We had some concerns from the neighborhood. So that is not counted in this report. We do hope to install or stripe some type of bike facility on that road this spring once the bicycle facilities plan is complete. So that's one of the reasons our numbers are looking a little low for 2023. Our shared routes, we did do some resurfacing, as I mentioned. So Berkshire Road, which is part of the Blue Bike route, Braybird Road, which is part of the Orange Bike route, were all resurfaced. And then moving along to crosswalks, we had 31 crosswalks that were painted or repainted in 2023. We also added lighting at one crosswalk shown here, Brace Road. And then we have our crown jewel pedestrian and bicycle facility, Tropic Trail. We extended in 2 phases from Fern Street up to Duffield Drive. That was phase 6. That was a LOTSIP funded project. And then that wrapped up around the end of summer, early fall. And then we went right into phase 7, which took us from Duffield Drive up to Asylum Avenue. These have been both very well received projects by the neighborhood. They're heavily used. We received a lot of compliments about them, including from residents who were flat out opposed to the project or had other concerns. So those are definitely two crowning achievements in terms of our ped bike facilities this year. This does leave one final piece for Tropic Trail phase 3, which runs from Park Road to Jackson Avenue. We are in final design with that project right now. We're expecting to go to bid later this spring and then construct and complete that project this year. So the hope is next year when we're presenting this report, Tropic Trail will be complete as initially envisioned. That doesn't mean that we can't have any future connections or extensions, but the initial vision of that project will be complete in about a year. We planted about 45 street trees. Most of those were along Tropic Drive and Tropic Trail, which will provide a buffer between the trail and the street there. Transit accessibility, we didn't have any standalone projects this year, but I do want to highlight the fact that all of these projects do provide better access to transit, whether it's fixing and repairing sidewalks, adding trail sections or bike facilities. And then continuing on the sidewalk concept, we had a great year in terms of sidewalk improvements. We did about 2.7 miles worth of sidewalk. So that's about 2,800 slabs. If you figure the average slab is about 4 feet wide and 5 feet long. If you were to line those all up end to end, you could go from about Bishop's Corner to the New Webster House. So a lot of work in that department. It is a challenging program. We have, like I said, we did about just under 3 miles. We have about 300 miles in total around town. So we're replacing sidewalks on average every 100 years, which is not always sustainable. So we continue to look for new funding sources and new ways to repair and replace sidewalks and keep that infrastructure in good working order. One of the ways we do that is our sidewalk repair program, where we do saw cut repairs. If there's a minor tow trip between slabs, we'll actually have a contractor go out there and saw cut that tow trip hazard. We did about just under 600 of those this year. We've done about 5,500 of those around town since that program started in 2015. It is a very quick, fast, easy process that's less intrusive Doesn't involve closing the sidewalk for very long at all. That allows us to respond to a lot more complaints than we could with just conventional sidewalk replacements. We received, we completed about 130 individual complaints this year, but unfortunately received about another 190, leaving us about 900 open complaints. So we continue to tackle those every year and try to chip away at that backlog. One of the things you'll notice is, we hit 130 complaint locations, but we did about 2,800 slabs. So when we're in a neighborhood and we see an issue, we're going to take care of that, but we're going to take care of issues that are adjacent to that complaint. So we're going to try to take care of all the issues in the area when we're there. We do spread that money around town though. So we're hitting neighborhoods all across town, both through our sidewalk reconstruction program and then through our roadway reconstruction program. Talk about traffic signals a little bit. We had two projects this year. One was continuation of our APS upgrades. So these are the accessible pedestrian signals. These are the audible buttons that you'll see at many of our intersections. So we added 3 intersections this year, or excuse me, in 2023. We had a few more that are actually in progress right now. Public Works is actively working on 3 more of those. They were not able to complete them at the end of the year, but we do have a number of those lined up for 2024. And we also added 4 left turn signals. These were a recommendation of the North Main Street Road Diet. We added one at Asylum going eastbound at North Main Street, Fern Street going eastbound at North Main Street, and then Fern Street at Trowbrook Drive in both directions. So those left turn signals, of course, reduce crash risk, but also reduce delay for those left turn maneuvers. In 2023, we did not have any new traffic calming measures. We did make some minor improvements to existing traffic calming facilities, but that program is still alive and well. We have a number of neighborhoods that we're presently working with, and we may have some new installations in 2024. And then the last part of the report is the vulnerable user crashes. We'll jump right into the data here. 2023, we did have an increase in crashes involving pedestrians and bicycles. We also added a new category, other cyclists. We had our first e-bike crash. We called an e-bike and a school bus. But when we break down the data a little bit more, the good news is that injuries were equal or less for serious and fatal injuries compared to 2022. We certainly didn't have any fatalities in 2022 or 2023, excuse me. We did have 3 serious injuries or suspected serious injuries as reported. But all of the increases in the head bike crashes were in the suspected minor injury or no apparent injury categories. So there was some good news there. But certainly we're going to keep tracking those numbers and watching where our trends are going. And obviously there's a lot of overlap here between Complete Streets and Vision Zero. The Complete Streets report really just kind of reports on this, and obviously with Vision Zero, we're going to dive down into that data a little bit more and look for trends and identifying solutions to those crashes. Also included a heat map this year. We did have a couple locations where there was 2 crashes that were nearby. We didn't have any locations where we saw repeat of the same type of crash. So you can see that the crashes were spread out somewhat equally across town. And then lastly, we have an enforcement piece here, which breaks down responsibility for the crash and any enforcement that was taken. Drivers were responsible for about 2/3 of the crashes, and then pedestrians and cyclists for about the remaining 1/3. So that concludes the report. Again, happy to answer any questions that the committee may have.
Are there any questions from committee members? I think right now that would just be our deputy mayor. Are there any questions from other council members? Mayor Cantor.
I just want to say thank you so much. And you are, this is, Jim, this is so, you understated how much the Trowbrook Trail has added to the quality of life for people. I mean, I know you were very positive, but it is probably one of the most complimented that I've had in, the 2 decades of service that I've had on this. It's really, really important. So that last section, I am really looking forward to, and really, I think it will be such an incredible asset in that area, which is a very, very busy traffic area too. So taking people off the street and having that safe travel lane will be so important. Also, the extensions. So, I think we need to make sure that we are considering ultimate connections to other communities, and that's really important. Really important as well. And as the conversations on the Greenway continue and all of that, those connections are going to be really important, not only for the quality of life for our community and the safety of our community, but also economic development. Really, really important. So I appreciate all the work that you have done, but I think we all are seeing the holistic kind of look, the complete streets and Vision Zero and the connections that are being made. And this will be important as time goes on, and there will be a little back and forth between the two, no question. So I do think Complete Streets was sort of the setup for now what we have in Vision Zero. And again, the connectivity, I think they'll be intertwined for a long time. But I just want to say thank you for your work. And this is this improvement in our community is so appreciated. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Are there any other questions from council members? Okay, so thank you so much for this presentation. It was my first Complete Streets report, as I believe it was probably Councilor Walters as well. So I really appreciate the information. And Rick, I guess we'll move on to staff reports.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Do folks have a few more minutes and Dwayne can go quickly through his report? I know we've taken up a lot of time this morning. Okay, very good. Thank you. Turn it over to Mr. Martin.
Thank you, Manager Ledwith. I'll be quick. I'm just going to point out 2 things from the report. We have our list of reconstructions and roadway resurfacings that are planned for this upcoming construction season. So those are hot off the press, as they say. Please note that what's listed for roadway resurfacing is just the first of 3 rounds. There'll be others that come out. We don't like to advertise those too far in advance in case something changes. And the information will also be placed on our engineering division website and also in the town manager's report when appropriate. And the second thing I wanted to mention, or the last thing I wanted to mention, is our center infrastructure master plan. We had a meeting on February 7th with the public, which went pretty well. And we're following that up with our consultant, Stantec, to come up with an update. There was a poll that was released and closed. So we've collected that information and we're using that along with other components to make a decision on the concept plans. There were 3 concept plans for what could be done for design for LaSalle Road and 4 for Farmington Ave. And there's a lot to pour over to make that decision, but we are targeting a follow-up meeting in March with the public. We haven't announced it yet because we're still working out some of the details, but we want to keep this moving along as best we can, as quickly as we can, to move into a more detailed design and keep the process moving to finish the design and the master plan this calendar year and be in construction on LaSalle and Farmington in the center next year. That's all I have for my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry we took up time and you had to cut your report short. No future agenda items, Rick?
Nothing from us, Madam Chair, but certainly any feedback is welcome from the council as we move forward for future agendas.
Okay. Did you raise your hand?
I did. Just a question, housing, the affordable housing plan, will that be, what's our status with that? I know it went back and forth with the committee.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor Winograd, through you, Madam Chair. We will have the affordable housing report on our next agenda. We did want to provide our Affordable Housing Advisory Committee an opportunity to provide some feedback on that report. So we will do that. And then I think we're in a really good place to move it forward and adopt our final plan, but we'll ask for one more meeting to do that. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you.
So if there are no other items, I'll move to adjourn the meeting. Sorry for taking up so much time, but I think we did pretty good for all of the information that we were given today. So thank you guys and hope you have a great day.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thanks. Bye-bye.